Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give you an update on some storms moving across parts of the Carolinas tonight, and we're also tracking the tropics, which are beginning to heat up after a slumber for the past really 4 or 5 weeks. We're starting to see activity that will begin to crop up, and I do expect moving forward the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, we're going to have daily areas to watch to where I don't think we'll have a clean slate on our tropical outlook for quite a while. It does not mean one is necessarily going to directly impact the United States, but it does mean we need to watch it closely because as we move forward, things are going to be getting a lot more active. For us, locally, the chance for storms, the main story tonight. Now, most of us are going to just see a muggy night. However, a severe thunderstorm watch has been posted in conjunction with the Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service. You can see that activity moving right now out of Tennessee. So some of you are going to hear some thunder, see some lightning. You're seeing it right now across the area as there's an isolated storm out ahead of that. It's moving through Greenville and Spartanburg counties, but the bulk of this is a line that's moving through Tennessee right now and moving into western North Carolina. Now, to be honest with you, a lot of this is going to lose its punch, and not everybody's going to hear some thunder tonight or hear some rain, but there is that potential. It's right along the Tennessee-North Carolina state line that I expect to see some of the worst of it. And we're talking gusty winds and lightning being the primary impacts out of this, but there's a low risk for some strong storms across the upstate into the overnight hours. This outlook gets us all the way through tonight at 8 a.m. into tomorrow morning. Now, the outlook from tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. and beyond, is for I-85 south to hear some thunder and to see some storms. And this would mainly be in the afternoon hours. Same story for the Raleigh-Durham area. Tomorrow into North Carolina, there will be some strong storms rolling on through, of which could be on the strong to severe side. Right now, on our very own live Super Doppler 4, we can track those storms rolling out of Tennessee into the mountains. Swain County, parts of Cherokee and Clay County, Madison County, Buncombe County. You're all areas that could see the storms, but the mountains are going to try to break a lot of this up. Let me show you what I'm watching right now. Some of you are hearing that thunder, seeing that lightning big time. I mean, we've had a very, very humid day, and it is still very hot outside. So any storm that's over us right now beginning to fire up and be quite strong. So as we move into the overnight hours, it's these areas that I'll be watching closely that could hear some thunder or possibly see some more rain. Greer, Lake Robinson, you had a quick hit of some storms. Boy, that was loud and heavy for a little while. Things have since simmered on down. But Spartanburg, you're about to get some more rain after you had a storm earlier today. Lyman, same story, you're getting some storms right now. Back toward the west is where live Super Doppler 4 stretching up toward Tennessee, seeing some of this activity moving through Gatlinburg, Sevierville. I mean, this is a tremendous amount of cloud-to-ground lightning. If you have family or friends back that way, maybe share this with them. Let them know what's going on because, hey, you're trying to get ready for school tomorrow. Here we are. You got a big day ahead. There's some storms keeping you awake, and that's going to be the case for some across the mountains tonight as some of this activity moving out of Tennessee will indeed move into North Carolina. So let's take a closer look at our active alerts right now. There's that watch that stretches into the mountains, which includes McDowell County, Yancey, Mitchell, Avery counties, back through Madison, Haywood, Jackson, Swain, back through parts of Macon County, Cherokee and Clay County, up toward parts of Macon County as well. So watching that closely. Graham County, you're including that as well. So what we're watching right now is the fact that it's very hot, it's very humid, and a cold front is on the way. And that's going to lead to some changes moving our way as we move forward. To the fact that as we move on through, it's going to feel quite comfortable. It won't even get this hot. Right now at 9:30 at night, it's 86 degrees in Greenville. It will not get that hot on Wednesday. But when you factor in the humidity right now in Greenville, it's terrible. Feels like 94. And that's the danger in these type heat waves. You deal with the heat all day, and then you get it at night. 81 degrees will be the coolest it'll feel at any time tonight. So those of you without air conditioning, I'm really sorry. Try to find a way to stay cool. Drink plenty of water. Keep that fan going best you can, okay? When air conditioning goes out, it's not great. If you can look out for your neighbors, it's a good night to do that, just like you would in the heart of wintertime. This is that kind of danger when the temperature's that out of the ordinary. For tomorrow morning, we'll wake up to the mid-70s, not too shabby. In fact, as we move forward things are looking up. Tomorrow's not as hot. We'll see some clouds. The front itself is actually going to move through, so I can't rule out a shower or a thunderstorm, but the chances are very scattered. Not everybody's going to see it. In the mountains, those storm chances move through between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. You do stand a better chance at seeing some storms in the mountains tomorrow, at least a good downpour here or there. That's as the front moves through. Look at this, 90 degrees tomorrow in Greenville, 83 in Asheville, looking much, much better. It's still going to feel hot, though. The humidity is still going to be extremely high, so that means it's going to feel like 104 in Lawrence, 100 in Anderson, and 98 in Greenville. But by Wednesday, we're looking much better. So storms that are over us right now. Here we are, 2:30, 3 o'clock, those storms rolling into Asheville, Cullowhee, and Franklin. Those are the storms that have the severe thunderstorm watch for them. We'll be watching these closely tonight, but as they roll east, yeah, there's a chance some of those move into the upstate. Of course, Perella will be watching these first thing tomorrow morning. Make sure you wake up and watch Perella. She'll be tracking them hour by hour using live Super Doppler 4. I just don't see much of this activity rolling into the upstate. I just don't. There's a chance, yes, especially in the northern part of the upstate. Glassy Mountain, Caesars Head, Lyman, Inman, Boiling Springs, but for the rest of us in the upstate, most of us will stay dry. And as this front crosses tomorrow, it just doesn't have a lot of lift. So I don't see it giving us widespread thunderstorms. Of course, it's summertime, it's hot, it's humid. You can get storms to form at any time. That's what's happening right now across the upstate. But as far as all of us getting something tomorrow, I just don't see it being too widespread because we are going to see things be relatively tame with that front because it just doesn't have a lot of lift in it. So what we will be watching for is a brief break from the heat. That comes in Wednesday and even into Thursday to some extent. But by Thursday, we're starting to see this big dome of high pressure back toward the west settle in. What that is going to do is basically like putting a lid on a crock pot. It keeps things intact, keeps things suppressed. And in an environment like that, it means very little rain or thunderstorm chances. Yes, it's going to be hot, it's going to be humid, but it's going to be dry. We won't see thunderstorms, at least not widespread thunderstorms. There'll be one or two that crop up here or there, but most of us will remain dry. My yard could use a good soaking. It's crunchy. The heat dome is what settles in Friday into next week. It is going to be significantly hotter than what we're going to see Wednesday, Thursday. Back to the low to mid 90s. The humidity is going to crank up. This heat dome is going to be locked in, it appears, for at least a week, starting Friday through all of next week, even in the next weekend. Looks like we're going to be in the low to mid 90s. Okay, we are tracking the tropics, and this is where I want to kind of transition for you. So if you have some questions about what's happening right now, what's going on Doppler radar, I want to give an opportunity for you to ask that right now because, hey, we got a lot going on tonight, and I want to make sure that I get to what you need from me, and we'll get that chat going right now. So, hey, if you have a question about the storms, about what's going on in Tennessee, in fact, just catching my eye right now, I'm seeing we have a tornado warning in Tennessee, not for our area, and I do not expect that to be for our area. In fact, when I look at the tornado outlook, let's pull that up for you. Wrong button. Let's see here. There we go. The tornado outlook is back toward Tennessee. So that's actually where we're seeing a tornado warning right now. So I turn on live Super Doppler 4. I'll put it in alert mode. We'll be able to stretch up into Tennessee. Again, I do not have tornado concerns for our area, but of course, we're always watching it. And we are watching it right now for Tennessee. And that's happening right now north of Johnson City, heading toward the Bristol area. A supercellular storm right there. We'll turn on the velocity. Yeah, got some red and green meeting each other near Rogersville, Tennessee. Churchill, that's moving right along Highway 11 right there. This is north of 81. This is well west of Highway or Interstate 26, and it is moving east toward Bristol, Tennessee. So the storms that we have moving in Tennessee that are moving toward the mountains of North Carolina, they certainly have some wind, but I'm just not seeing anything tornadic out of that. In fact, what's moving through Ware Valley, parts of Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, strong winds and some lightning, certainly, just not seeing the impact of strong storms, tornadic cells with that. We do have a lot of lightning out of it, though, and stretching up toward this cell right here. Yeah, that's a tornadic storm in Tennessee. I do not expect that type of activity to move our way. So what we do have moving our way is the heat. Okay, those of you watching right now, let's get that chat going. I needed to kind of take a pause there to look at the severe storm that is back toward the west right now in possible tornadic activity there in Tennessee. Any possible tropical weather for the 1st of September? Nathan, good question there. Our models that stretch out that far, I'm going to get to that here in a second. We'll look way out into the future and kind of see what's going on. We need to watch that closely because I do see things kind of springing up. There you go. Ben, too hot. Yes, it is way too hot. It's going to take a little break and then go on through. What about Orlando last week of August? I'll be on my honeymoon. Are we good? Chelsea, congratulations. What a great place to be on your honeymoon. We love going to see the mouse down there in Florida and watching that closely. It appears we are getting a new warning here, but impossible to say if we're going to see something exactly right there in Florida at that time. But what we are going to see is activity crop up. So I can't tell you that we're definitely going to see a storm form in Orlando or threat in Florida at that time, but what I can tell you is it does look to get a lot more active. Lawrence is watching. Any storms for Shelby tomorrow? Gavin, certainly a possibility, but right now not a widespread chance, maybe 20-30% chance. Are we going to have a loud night in Berea? Not necessarily. Most of the upstate should be dry. What about bad weather tonight? Patricia, if you live along the Tennessee-North Carolina state line, you'll likely hear some thunder and see that lightning here in the next 2 or 3 hours. Watching that closely. Are we in for bad weather tonight? As the humidity is unreal. Jesse, it sure is. Our dew point's like 76 right now. That's absurd for our area. That's what you'd find in New Orleans. No joke. Let's see. Congrats, my boy got married today and going to Panama City Beach. Praying for you all. Good deal. Lots of good news going on right now. All right, so what can I help you with right now? We're going to get to the tropical side of this. Who's here for the tropical activity? Who's watching for that? Lots of that. Tara says, can we cancel summer? I'm over it. It's ridiculous. I'm with you there. I'm ready for football season. I'm ready for grilling out and not being dripping wet and sweat. I love grilling out. Summer, fall, spring, whatever. I don't necessarily like it in the pollen. I'll do it, but pollen season gets me big time. But anyway, I'm ready for some crisp, cool fall air. Absolutely. Who's ready for that? Family's doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for asking. Hope you're doing well, Chris. Nashville, North Carolina. Thank you for watching. All right, let's talk about the tropics because I know many of you are watching right now on Facebook and on YouTube. Ready for a tropical update because things are cooking right now in the tropics, and we need to watch that closely because as we move forward, we're going to be watching the tropics especially close, like we always do, but with an extra eye open over the next couple of days because things are beginning to get a lot more active, and in this case, we need to watch it in many different realms. So let's get to the tropical update right now because as we move forward, we're going to be watching as the tropics wake up. They are waking up as we speak. And by that, I mean we're getting more threatening signals from our computer models, at least activity bubbling up. That does not mean that we're going to see a storm. That's no guarantee that we're going to see anything develop or threaten the United States. But I do see that activity cropping up in a big way. The Caribbean and the Gulf are danger zones right now. There's a tremendous amount of heat content. So any kind of storm that should be healthy entering that area would have the potential to rapidly intensify. It's that kind of environment like we do have with storm fuel. Doesn't mean that you're going to get a storm, but if you have the gasoline right there, if you have the match anywhere near it, it'll explode. Same story with the tropics right now in the Caribbean and the Gulf. They are danger zones. You don't have the match, so we're fine, but you've got an empty can of gasoline sitting in the Gulf and in the Caribbean right now. Should a match get in there, watch out. And in fact, we need to watch. It doesn't look to get very intense because it doesn't really enter those areas that I'm talking about. I'll show you in just a moment, but a Gulf sneaky storm is possible early next week, about this time next week. We are entering a very active period, which I'm going to cover right here. So let's talk about where we have areas. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, I don't expect that we'll get out of the next couple of weeks without at least having something on this map. There may be a day or a half a day where there's just not anything there. But we're getting into the season where you get these big waves that roll off the coast of Africa and move in here in the main development region. And that's what we're seeing happen right now. You've got several areas that are being watched. There's One right here near the Cape Verde Islands that certainly is worth watching. It's nothing to write home about right now, but it has about a 20 to 30% chance of becoming a named tropical system. That, just by its latitude alone right now, does look like it's going to kind of go up in this direction. Not really be a threat to the United States. Certainly possible, but it does not look to be too much of a threat. This other area is nothing right now. That's why you see, and you'll see this a lot this year, is an X and then an arrow pointing to, okay, this guy right here, when it goes over here, will have a better chance at forming. It's not necessarily an environment where it even has a chance right now, but by the time it gets to that area, it will have that chance. But what's in its way? Well, right now, a tremendous amount of dry air. That brown is dry air. The green is moist air. All right? Tropical systems, if you go back to Weather 101, need moisture. They need warm water temperatures. That's why you don't get hurricanes in the wintertime. They need 80-degree plus water temperatures to sustain tropical activity. They've got that. They just have a tremendous amount of dry air. And as this system moves west, it's going to be combating dry air. And not only that, it's Saharan dust, which is especially detrimental to tropical development. But what I'm seeing on the models is this guy right here somehow chugs along here, weak as it is, and somewhere in this area early next week, about a week from now, that dry air is gone at that point. It will have a window to develop. Now, still, even in this area, we would have many, many days to track it, probably 5 before it would become a threat to the United States, okay? So end of next week, 10 days from now, it could be a threat to the United States. Not concerned about it right now. And really, until this time next week, we really would not be, because we'd have plenty of time to watch it even then. But there's a lot in its path that kind of says, I don't think so. What we're also seeing in the models, a couple of these little tropical waves that we've seen bubble up here. As they move west, some of the models here are showing they could get into the Gulf. And that's what we need to watch out for. So where are those areas right now? As I look at the enhanced satellite, we're looking at that closely. There's some old remnants of some tropical waves in here. You'll get them here and there. Big plume of moisture moving over Florida right now. Very muggy, very stormy in Florida, in Cuba as well. Cayman Islands to Jamaica. Very wet, very rainy. Go down toward Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras. You've got some storms. Pretty clear for the Caribbean islands. Smooth sailing, in fact. Dominican, Puerto Rico, back through Guadalupe, St. Martin, St. Lucia. Islands look great right now, all down to Trinidad and Tobago. Venezuela got some storms as well. But so far, so good. We just need to watch what could spill out of the Atlantic and make its way in the Caribbean Sea. Right now, we got a big slot of dry weather in the Caribbean, or the Atlantic. That's helping things out. But the steering current right now with this big Bermuda high, which is always there, it migrates though, and that changes up the steering currents, would send things that form in this area kind of down this way. Kind of like that, okay? So that's the area we need to watch out for, and as I look at my tropical heat energy map, this is where we want to avoid. This is that open can of gasoline that we need to really avoid, and right now, anything that enters this area would have a chance to become very strong. Now, this map only knows what's happening at the ocean surface, okay? It does not look above, so if there's a tremendous amount of wind shear or anything like that, or dry air in place, it doesn't matter how much heat energy you have, okay? So this map is only good in the fact that it tells you the ocean sea surface content. And I'm telling you right there, that area, if given a good environment, no wind shear, no dry air, a storm would thrive, okay? What we're going to see happen is a tropical wave this week in the models is starting to show up and going in this area. That's not as strong as this area, but the Gulf is very primed up right now. So let's look at our 2 most reliable computer models. All right, let's map it out. Here's that energy. I got a couple areas to show you. There's one, and here's one. You see that guy right there on Thursday? That's a tropical wave. It's a little blip. It's not much, but it needs to be watched. So look what happens as we go a little bit deeper into the future. How about we stop it at Sunday? Sunday. Here we are with our other guy trying to form that we're showing you but it looks so far out this way, it's probably going to stay out to sea. You've also got a couple more waves rolling off the coast of Africa, which is why I tell you, we probably won't have a time frame moving forward where we don't have some area to watch, okay? It's just that time of year. We're used to that. We know that. In fact, the National Hurricane Center, NOAA, and the experts at Colorado State University have upped their forecast to where it looks like hurricane season will now have more activity than previously thought because El Nino is a little slow to develop. It's baby El Nino right now, so it's not getting its act together. So what we're moving toward here is a very active pattern. But remember that wave I just showed you? It's now in the Gulf of Mexico. This would be Sunday. Now the models are sniffing this out. It's right over Cuba. It's over Miami. You don't see a closed-off circulation, so that's good. So it's weak, whatever it is. But here's something, and right in there, we do look to kind of have at least something trying to form. You see the closed circulation right there trying to form in our wind streams. That would be this time next week. Something could be in the Gulf, and the European model right here says Texas needs to watch out for this, okay? It's not strong up until that last frame or two, and then it's like, okay, this might be a tropical storm or so. Now that would get caught up there. Looks to kind of spin around into next week. Could be a big rainmaker for Texas. Could squash the heat for a little while there. What about the GFS American model? Well, it's highlighting a couple of different areas here. The general consensus is both models are showing a couple of different areas. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 right there. That one's a little far south to be a threat, but you get the picture. There's 4 areas here this week that the GFS is picking up on. So both are showing waves, okay? The GFS doesn't necessarily pick up on that exact wave, but here we are Sunday. You remember Sunday had something in the Gulf. The GFS picks up on something. It's weaker, but the key here is they both pick up on something. Something's entering the Gulf, whether it's a weak tropical wave and no threat, or a tropical system, tropical depression or a tropical storm, needs to be watched into early next week. And here you are. GFS shows more intense waves moving off the coast of Africa, which means we need to be watching it closely. And there you go. Here's another wave in the next week going across Florida right there. And then this one has something in the Gulf late next week, next Thursday. Here we are with that guy right there. So again, yeah, I mean, both of our reliable computer models show something in the Gulf over the next week. They're not agreeing on the time frame, but they're agreeing something is going to be there. And as we approach the peak of hurricane season, we're very near it. This is the time of the year where we start to see activity begin to bubble up. And in this case, we sit somewhere right in here, where we get hurricanes and tropical storms to go up. The beginning of the month, it's way down here. You get almost double the activity by August 15th, which is where we're at now, and then almost double the activity by the time you get to September 1st. So approaching the peak of hurricane season, which is September 10th. And in fact, as you look at the activity by month, June and July account for 5 or 7%. Yeah, you can get a named storm. August accounts for about 25% of our named storms, but August into September is where the action is at. If you add both of those up, you'd really look at the last 2 weeks of August, first 2 weeks of September, and that would account for more than half of our named storm systems each year. So, where do we go looking ahead? Well, we're approaching the peak of hurricane season. The next month especially will be active. I expect many named storms. That's not going to be a surprise to me. It's impossible. It's impossible to say whether we will have direct threats to the United States. But with that much activity and with the ocean content being the way that it is across the Gulf and the Caribbean, we've got to watch it, okay? We're approaching peak season. We're approaching where our models are telling us strong African waves will continue to move on off, and we'll likely have daily and weekly systems to form. That will not surprise me. We'll probably blow through the names here in the next 2-3 weeks. Eyes are especially on the Gulf and the Caribbean. Should something get in either of those areas, we will need to watch them very closely. All right, what do we got for you, folks? Who was here for the tropical update? Got it for you. What can I help you answer right now? All right. Talking specifically about the hurricanes. Deb's watching right now. Thank you, Deb, for watching. Buffy says, I hope they stay away, headed to the beach Saturday for Beaufort for the week. Well, enjoy that, Buffy. The most number of tropical systems at one time in the Atlantic was 5 on September 10th, 1971. I foresee 6 named systems at some point this fall. That could certainly be possible. Certainly possible. Aerial storms overnight. Yes, they're certainly possible. In fact, there's a severe thunderstorm watch for Asheville northwestbound. Some of this activity moving out of Tennessee will need to be watched. But for the upstate, most of us are going to be all right. Most of us are going to be dry. Most of this activity is going to be over the mountains. And even there, it's going to be somewhat scattered. Deb's watching from Five Forks. Thank you for watching. Hope that helps answer a lot of your questions. Rabun County, you are included in that severe thunderstorm watch. Need to watch it closely for you. Could certainly hear some rumbles of thunder between midnight and 3 a.m. It's one of those situations where if you have a tree that's a little bit suspect in your yard, maybe avoid that side of the house, okay? Some of the dangers we had last week with those storms. David's watching on YouTube from Union. Thank you for watching, David. Northeast Georgia, good. Most of Northeast Georgia is. Rabun County is included in that watch, but a lot of this activity is going to be broken up by the mountains, so it should not be too widespread across Northeast Georgia, but you certainly could hear some thunder between midnight and 3 a.m. Donna's watching from Liberty. Hi to you. Heading to Pompano, Florida from Spartanburg on the 28th. Maybe. Yeah, got to watch it closely. 28th is going to be that area, that time, where things need to be watched. Things could certainly get going. Is El Nino causing the extreme dew points we're seeing lately? George, not necessarily. Right now, our pattern is just caused by the high pressure, the big dome of high pressure. It's normal to get hot and humid conditions. This is a little extra, a little extra this year, but El Nino's not impacting that. El Nino's not really a factor right now, which is unfortunate because we were kind of banking on El Nino being a little bit stronger right now. It looks to be strong in winter, which if you haven't seen my winter forecast early style, you need to go to my YouTube page and check out how El Nino is going to play a major role in our winter this year and could lead to some snow bombs across the East Coast, especially when you couple that with the extremely warm water temperatures we have. Cassie says, thanks for always keeping us so closely informed. My family appreciates your level of commitment. Cassie, you made my day. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Joy says, I love the heat. I used to live in New Hampshire where we had 3-foot snowstorms and temperatures of minus 45. So glad we moved down here 9 years ago. Joy, so good to have you as well. Yeah, some extreme snow and extreme cold up that way. We'll get it every once in a while, but not like you would in New Hampshire. Corey, is fall and winter going to be colder? It does look to have spurts of cold blasts, but right now I think it's going to be more wet than anything. And a wet winter is usually a snowy winter for us because we're going to get cold at some point, but the dry winters are what really kill our snow chances. Ariel says, looking forward to this winter. I'm so over the heat. So am I. Absolutely. I'm ready for football season. Cheer on the Panthers. Clemson, Carolina. Who you pull for? My wife went to Georgia, so by default, I'm a Georgia fan. I've become a pretty big fan, in fact. So it'll be a good year. Been a good couple years watching as a Georgia fan. Carolyn, watching in Abbeville, ready for fall and that snow. Oh, yeah. We'll probably get a good snow this year. It's abnormal for us to not get snow. Let's just say that. Last year, having no snow was only the second time in recorded history we've had big goose egg at wintertime. Carolyn's watching from Abbeville. Yeah, good. Hopefully a cold Halloween. Corey, I love a cold Halloween. Nothing worse than getting out there in your outfit and your kids are all red-faced. No kidding. Can't wait for all the possible snow. Yeah, it could be a big year for us snow-wise. We're due for it. In fact, some of the patterns I'm seeing are on par with 2009, with 2014, where we had big seasons of snow. And you couple that with the unusually warm Atlantic temperatures right now, which will still be warm in December and January. It's like having a cup of a bottle of water right here. If I had this thing pretty hot, it's not going to just cool down instantly when I take it away from the heat. It's going to take some time to do that. And same way with the ocean, it takes time for that water to cool back down. And once it does, the impact there is not as great. But I'd certainly see those impacts being a little bit higher even into the rest of the year. So hope that helps answer your questions, folks. I'm going to sign off here. Got a lot to track as we look at some storms rolling across the mountains right now. In fact, there's a severe thunderstorm warning for Cherokee County, North Carolina. until 10:30. We're watching that closely, and there is a severe thunderstorm watch for Asheville, points northwestbound. We'll be watching that very closely going into the overnight hours. All right, folks, thank you so much, and I hope you have a good night.